Hello, and welcome to this special Christmas episode of Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 19 of Chobits. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. Oh boy. So last we left off, she was abducted. And, frankly, that's all I can really say about it. Like, it's not a good situation. And there's a whole bunch of things that aren't explained, like who the kidnapper is. Although he seems to have a book on Linux, which, ooh, buddy, he might be, and may God forgive me for saying this, a computer scientist. Like, that's a dangerous place to be. But there's also all sorts of other stuff, like the landlord, she has like this computer dungeon with some pretty advanced looking machinery. And she's saying, boy, I wish I could help. There's also those two people in trench coats who are somehow involved. I guess I thought they would be involved in the kidnapping, but they're just sort of standing by. Like, it seems like everybody's kind of at a loss for what to do and where to go, which isn't entirely surprising because it seems like the person who did the kidnapping is entirely uninvolved with anyone and everyone else in the plot. You know, it's just sort of like this brand new interloper. Yeah. You know, it is unfortunate that Hideki only has a little bit of information to go off of. I feel like, perhaps he should, seek out the police. You know, I'm not exactly sure how they would treat a situation like this. Because, you know, like, they can't necessarily treat it like a missing person with persicums not being people. But surely they should be able to help, right? Ooh, okay. So there's a little bit of speculation that the person who initially sent that little email saying, you know, she might be a Chobit, like that person might be involved. And, you know, that's not a bad line of reasoning based on what we, the audience, know. You know, somebody who has made themselves untraceable on an internet forum. And then the person who kidnapped Chi seemingly has an interest in Linux. Like, you know, put two and two together. So, I guess if nothing else, it is kind of nice that Hideki is determined to find Chi. You know, that's better than him being, resigned to this horrible fate. I guess it's also nice that she has sort of inspired other people to care about her. Like, her boss from the bakery is, like, even taking it upon himself to look around and try and find her. And, you know, he's just, like, a boss. Like, barely an acquaintance, I would say. So I think that, it's indicative of Chi's good nature that a relative stranger would be willing to help. I mean, I guess it's probably incumbent, or perhaps it's probably indicative that this is just like, a good high trust society that, like, even normal people and passersby want to do the right thing. It's interesting that Yumi is just sort of following Hideki around and not, like, talking to him or anything. Because I feel like it's a bit suspicious that she's not doing anything. Not enough to say that she's involved or anything, but it's like, why are you being so shy about this? Like, is the idea that, whoa. That was an interesting exchange. It's like, oh, use a Persicom to, post a message to try and find Chi, but like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have a Persicom, do you? And I was gonna say, like, it's really rude. Like, he's trying to find his Persicom, but she was talking to the other guy. Which, that's a little hint right there. So, Mr. Ueda, I believe his name is, he used to own one. That's what we're being told, but, what happened to his Persicom is anyone's guess, I suppose. I guess the way it was treated, it seems like it's, maybe not a sore subject, but not something you should just bring up lightly. Now, I guess it's good that Hideki is cognizant that she is, like, kind of sapient, and therefore things might be, not good. I'm not sure about the wisdom of continuing to search late at night, 'cause, like, I feel like, well, I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22, right? Because, like, if you keep searching, you might find her, but then again, if you run yourself ragged, like, what if you don't as a result of that? So, Hideki's asking a question he probably doesn't really want the answer to. Can Persicoms feel pain? And in all likelihood, I would have to guess the answer is no. But, as with all things relating to Persicoms, I feel like she's a bit of a special case. I guess the one saving grace of this whole thing is that Chi's captor doesn't seem to be exceptionally malevolent. Like, stealing stuff is still wrong, but he doesn't seem to be an evil person, I guess. Now, Shinbo was also mentioning stuff about, like, Persicoms and their data being erased from hard drives and stuff like that. I certainly hope this isn't going to be a plot point. Like, I remember back around, like, episode 6 or so, when she ran out of power, I figured that, like, amnesia or corruption of memory on the hard drive might have been, like, a plot point, but, it wasn't. But now that it's being brought up, it's like, ooh boy, I don't like where that's going, because, like, suppose Hideki does get Chi back, but, something catastrophic has happened memory-wise, and suppose she reboots and she's more, I guess, typical for a Persicom and not like herself. Like, that would, in essence, be the death of Chi, right? Like, she would no longer be herself. I hope that's not where this is going. Ooh. Okay, so Mr. Ueda here, he was married to a Persicom, so... Ah, boy, that's rough. So I guess it really is a bit of a rough thing for that woman to say, like, oh, you don't have one anymore. It's like you wouldn't say that to a widower. It's like, oh, like, get your wife to do this. Oh, you don't have one right now. Like, oh, buddy. So I get the feeling that if this guy's a widower, it's probably not a good story. Now, I find it a little interesting that he bought, like, the one that was on sale. Like, that's not very romantic or anything, but, ooh, I think I know where this is going. Like, planned obsolescence or something like that. Like, you know, he marries this Persicon, but she's not a production model. They don't have replacement parts or something like that. I mean, I feel like this story is going to be inherently tragic. Oh, boy. So I guess what I'm wondering is, how does Mr. Ueda get to marry a Persicom? Because, like, I feel like, with Chi, it would make more sense. You know, she is far more lifelike, I guess, but... Man, like, if this guy has his Persicom working at the bakery... Like, this gives far more meaning to him having hired Chi. Wow. You know, it's, I guess it's interesting that he would actually go through, like, you know, buying a ring and all that, because, like, I feel like a Persicom wouldn't necessarily have a concept of all this stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking from the position of a skeptic who doesn't have an extremely lifelike computer. Oh, okay, so Yumi's still watching this. Like, to what end is she snooping in on this conversation? Like, this isn't gonna be some, like, bizarre twist where she ends up being a Persicom, right? Surely that wouldn't be the case, right? Like, she's gotta be a real person. I mean, I hate to edge into, like, Blade Runner territory here, but, I feel like all Persicoms are, like, fairly obvious as to what they are, right? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, digging a bit too deeply. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so they got married and all that, but the signs started to appear. Probably like, hardware failure. You know, like when your hard drive makes that little clicking noise that it shouldn't do. Ah, boy. Yeah, so like, starting to forget things like hard drive failure. That's... Man, this is grim. Like, especially when it's sort of like played up almost being like Alzheimer's or something like that. Just like forgetting things and then quickly forgetting things even as they happen. Oh, man. And like, what can you do, really? Ooh, okay. So there's the kicker, right? You know, yes, you can get a new hard drive, but no, you can't guarantee the data will be transferred, which is, in essence, killing the person you knew. Like, so what does Mr. Ueda do? Does he risk it or what? Like, the technician's missing the point. It's not that the Persicom will not remember and therefore not be affected. Like, that's secondary. Oh. Man, this is a real downer of an episode. I hope Hideki, like, does something heroic and finds Chi. Oh, boy. Oh, man. Like, it's even got, like, the hardware whirring and stuff, like... Gosh, that's grim to just, you know, turn on the Persicom and realize that, like, yeah, she doesn't remember me at all. Honestly, like, what can you do at this point? Like, I feel like you would almost have to change the hard drive as a mercy, you know? Because, like, to let her continue to operate in such a condition, like... Ah, man. Like, I guess it's slightly less of an ethical dilemma than dealing with real people, but boy... You know, I guess there's some merit to that she would still occasionally remember him, even with a busted hard drive. Like, I don't know, maybe that speaks to there being some sort of animus or impetus. Oh dear. Like, that's something, like, if you can't trust her to manage herself because of her forgetfulness, like, this is a recipe for disaster. Oh, jeez. So I guess whatever her faults in her hard drive, she did have the presence of mind to do one thing at the last moment, which... Man, that's gotta count for something, but boy, it sure cost her. So I guess the question of a hard drive is now moot, right? Like, if the entire thing's been battered by a truck... You know, I feel like if nothing else, Mr. Ueda's gotta consider that in her final moments, she was sort of lucid. I mean, that's gotta count for something, right? Man. I mean, I feel like in his position, you would have to believe that she did what she did deliberately. That even if she wasn't exactly lucid for most of day-to-day life, that, you know, something so deliberate as that, like, it would have to have been deliberate. I mean, I don't see how you could possibly think anything else, right? Even just purely as a coping mechanism. Oh, buddy. Well, I guess that's it then. You know, you got an old model, but, like, it's irreparable. I mean, I should hope she was at least given a proper burial or something, right? Denoting her station. Man, you know, this is an awfully grim episode. I guess the question is, how does Mr. Ueda move on from something like this? Like, I guess from his perspective, it is truly like having a spouse die. Like, there really isn't any way to replace a spouse, you know? Like, you can move on and get remarried, but it's explicitly not going to be the same. And there's... I guess, it's kind of a fool's errand to expect it to be the same. You're only asking for trouble if you do that. So it's interesting that he's taking the stance that as long as Hideki remembers, you know, even if Chi's hard drive is erased, like, some semblance of her can live on. Which, I mean, I do and I don't agree. I'm not entirely sure, but the idea is, like, you know, you can teach her to be how she was. Which, you know, could be true, assuming, nothing totally irreparable isn't lost. Now, Hideki was chasing after Yumi under the assumption that, like, she's involved with the kidnapping. I hope that's not the case. Oh. Okay, so I guess she's involved with Mr. Ueda somehow. I was almost gonna say she bears a striking resemblance to his late Persicam, but I mean, surely that couldn't be a coincidence, right? Not to say that she is one necessarily, although, you know, maybe that holds a little bit more water than I initially thought it did. I mean, maybe it'd make more sense that he tried to, like, use Yumi to replace the Persicam. Like, I hope that's not the case. Like, I could understand it, but boy, that's not a good thing to do either. So it's interesting that Mr. Persicam expert here, like, he sort of has to coach his Persicam. So like, look, you know, your suggestion, like, it was good that you brought it up. I wouldn't have thought of it otherwise. Like, it makes me wonder just how advanced these are, considering, you know, he made them himself, so they shouldn't necessarily be sapient. But to express sort of sadness and regret like that, you know, that's something. Ooh. Okay, so a new email from that mysterious, untraceable address. I get the feeling it's the kidnapper, right? Surely it must be. You know, I can't say I blame Hideki for being caught up on some of the other stuff he learned today, but, you know, he is kind of missing the bigger picture. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. Merry Christmas, Space Cowboy.